This is day 1031 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. Today's Arukh HaShulchan Yomi is being sponsored by my close friend Chaver and Chabrusa, Daniel Kislin, Himalaya Hashem Yishlosi Bo Litova. Today we're doing Simon Pei Dalet Sif Pei Hey to Tzadik Beis. Okay, still in Sif Pei Dalet, but we're getting close. Lachain. Coming in Merkachas, milbin, any type of confection in which worms or milbin fall in any you should fry them on the fire until they are liquefied. You should strain them. Practice says here, Ampri Magadim, which was subsequently Yudchesh, shaving from the Sagdola, but Var Chemetz. Says vinegar shesh botoloim, which have worms, dvarim tuim, dvarim tuim, whatever the Pri Magadim wrote, it is astonishing. V'chein chacham asam kol amches och avrim behi b'shem b'eslam Yehuda be'ein gemacht, whatever that is. Shesh botoloim, which is has worms, b'yosem elvi etzma, which are more than a finger breadth in width. Ein b'em to what that means. Ayin Sham. The Dvar of Tamuim. There must be some typo here because there's a little 7 here in the middle of nowhere in this Arukh HaShulchan. But, oh well. Etc. So, whatever it is, I don't know exactly what he's talking about. Pevab, if you have a wormy wheat or barley, imha rov, most of them are wormy, also totally not to grind them, which so for a Jew, because about the isra chatchila, negating a prohibited substance deliberately, which is forbidden. If a minority of them are wormy, as much as you can select and sift out before you can grind it, you should check. You should sift out. You can't sift out all of them. Never less you're allowed to then grind them. We're not concerned that you also will grind up the worms. Because when you spill the wheat and the barley into the hopper, any worm which has a hole in front of it, which from which it could leave, it goes out, squiggles and goes out, flees through the walls of the hopper. They call it because it's frightened by the sound and the vibrations of the mill. But the milkman, I heard they don't run away from the sound of the mill. So too in mills which don't have hoppers, such as hand mills, there's no place for the worms to run away. But there still is a het there. Even if you grind up the worms, you're nullified at 60. There's no problem of deliberately negating a prohibition. You don't have a mind to negate the prohibition. Just to grind them, we said by honey. However, when you sift the flour afterwards, you should sift by the light of the day. May seem that perhaps dead worms fell there, may hevel v'avakurichaim from the steam, and from, I guess, from the and that's so much steam as the fog, which is created by all the dust, the avakurichaim, the dust of the mill. V'yizrokasam, if you find them, toss them out. Bashar mutim, that is permissible. Yesh naposa kama minafal kvara. You should sift the flour. They should show so that the worms will remain in that fog, which I guess is thicker than the flour, lamala above. There's certain birds which grow in trees, and they dangle from the tree by their beaks. Since they grow in the, I assume that these are very small birds because we're trapped about insects. Since they grow on the tree and become the carcass which next to the ground, because the two should sleep as well. Shasum mishim sharetz shretz it's there because there to be shratzim which have been sharetz on land. Nearly a cost in the milvada lav shel sharetz off. So Arukh HaShulchan says it must mean that besides the prohibition of sharetz off of brim gam mishum lav, the sharetz oretz also violate the prohibition of sharetz oretz. Chayes moving back then be let us so to flies which grow in trees. Misavim me'azera. Israel must which are generated from the seed which their mothers left on the leaves. They're also because the sheretz shoretz oretz, without easter sheretz besides the prohibition of the flying sheretz. Came in the elam chubar la'aretz since the tree is connected to the ground. They're growing on the trees. Dino gamka sheretz ha'aretz. They're also like a sheretz ha'aretz. You find worms in an animal. You find them in the brain, or in the inner intestines, or between the hide and the flesh. All forbidden. But time reasons of osam those which are in the brain and those which are in the intestines, they came from outside the animal. When the animal is sleeping, they enter its nose, there for the brain, or to the trachea, and to the lungs, kabena, into the liver. So it's literally a sheretz ha'aretz. Those are chewing the hide and the flesh, are literally in the meat. And they were generated within the animal. And therefore they it's a big chiddush. They're considered to be Eivim min achai. Why? The kosher b'gu avema harez Eivim min achai. Anything which is in the animal's body, even if it's living from some other, it's a parasite. It's living from off the animal. It's not part of the animal. Nevertheless, it was living, so it's Eivim min achai. And here, and the shechting of the animal doesn't work for these worms. They have their own life force. Even though fetus is permitted when you shech the mother, even though it has its own life force. This is a special thing. Anything within the animal sheath, include a fetus. I explained there. But these worms are not made by the Torah. You can have Shane assuming time sheretz oretz. Therefore, even though they might not be also sheretz oretz because they never crawl on the ground, come him a term. You assume Eivim min achai. It's tremendous kiddush also because of Eivim min achai. And in brackets he says of name Melchim Torim. If that's the case, always down should also for goyim as well. No, they b'shratzim mishum Eivim min achai. By them, there's no prohibition of Eivim min achai by shratzim, which goes on Hezron to Nun Zayin. V'lo yachomer hasheretz me'abehema kasheretz atzmo. It's not going to be more severe a sheretz in an animal from a sheretz in itself. In other words, the prohibition of Eivim achai does not apply to bnei noach who are eating live insects. They just swallow live insects. It only applies to animals and such like. So therefore, the sheretz in the animal is no worse than an independent sheretz, so therefore, there's no Isser Min Achai for Ben Noach. But that's only Isser Min Achai because it's tough to the behemoth. But the Kemesh Ishlem Chiyus B'nei Atzon, also because they have their own life force, V'hem Shchita Lo Shayala, and the Shchita doesn't permit them, Hareyan, Hem Kibir B'nei Atzon, for the non-Jew, it's like its own independent creature. Peitas, well, Taloim Mitzvah but dogim, worms and fish. Imim Tzuma Mayim Maserv, they're found in the intestines that also Mishum the Ma'amakasa because they came from outside, which is like by an animal. Avalos Shim Bein Oil Basa, they're found between the hide and the flesh, or Batoch Basa Mamash, or literally inside the flesh. Mutar, they're minute. I mean, godly. They grow from the fish. The dog ain't to him shchita and fish do not require shchita. There's no way to make a chai. If I feel shchita, and even they were moved a little bit, chazan they came back. Mutar their mutar came with sayu because that's how they grow. Leave first class to separate a little bit and then come back. I think b'shakula if it completely separated from the fish and then came back, pshita the also it's obviously also. Tzadi v'zesha behema asuin that which the animal they're also hayu el time she saw behind this worms which generated during its lifetime. But those which generate after it's shechten, such as the meat was salted for a long time, and worms generated there. Mutar der minute cause much low didn't separate. Because the Tuvish Sif design, feel therefore Tolaim and Saim Bekarash and often in a boss and Mutarim. Worms which you find in a plate which fell from the meat are permitted. They might have separated while the animal was alive. Outside of the piece. The mistama, I'm sorry, that the worms separated when they were alive from the piece. The mistama also if any were there and they were porous, she would have fallen off when you rinsed the meat. They followed the line of reasoning to ensure the sphere the whole pirsha mesa muteris. If it's porous after it's dead, it's permitted. Was have a see from mouth. That's how instant pirsha mesa. Those who asked if it's separated after it died, was have see from base. Gamakan also here us as well. It's the bush. Those who want to permit it, Gamadas also people normally forbid. Abimashi is born based on what we will learn about worms in cheeses. The yesh there is a logic to say that if you be pure shulgarme, even if they've completely separated, sorry, they're permitted. Now we see it. They will see chas shalom to rely on that. Tzadik Alb, or Kosab Atuv Zoshono, two rights. Roya Lachush, Shenosan Bosa Bikter B'Mayim, so the name be appropriate to be concerned when you put the meat in a pot in cold water. Live Pirshul Dovni Agder, perhaps they separately went up to the walls of the pot. For Lav Hainu Visan, that's not the way they normally grow. No Gulahati, but the custom is to permit this. What he means to say is we already learned the Tolim Shabatalush worms which are on something which is severed from the ground. In Mark Bishul is the Makabashu, they were separated to somewhere else. Masun forbidden. The Zel Shemai, it's like worms in the water, which was separated to the back of a vessel. Therefore, even they separated to the wall of the pot, maybe if name on the inside, Asurin, they're forbidden. But here the leniency is that we say if they separate, they are alive, they would have fallen when you rinse the meat. And if it was separated after it died, the worm died, muteris. The Madan Yeshlim was they never permitted the worms themselves. No matter what. We don't assume in terms of the worms themselves. Lomar Shepir Mesa that they separated afterwards. That was having little Samazine and Sham. If you find the worms not in the original place, but you find them nifrash, then we assume they're porish in a way which is awesome. Of a tumor for odiosa, it's also to clarify it further. Even those which are found after you cook, you throw away the worms. For Ariyesh Mishik, those again, when he asked this question, he answered, "Lo dam, it's not comparable. It's free. You frequently find worms in meat, in fruit. Mashiach Bas opposed to meat. And therefore they weren't so severe. But furthermore, the peros are by fruit, the worms on the inside. Abasa and mechutz and the meat on the outside. And they stomach fell. We assume they fell when you rinse the meat. So drisha prisha. That's the words of the Torah. We do in fact assume that that's what happened. Nevertheless, perhaps this worm is deeply embedded in the meat. It didn't come out when the meat was rinsed. When they put it in a pot with still cold water, Lomais didn't die. I didn't yet die. Maybe it went up the walls on the inside. But he says he's writing, or the Torah is writing, you really should have been concerned about this. The trend is to permit this. For the reason that we shall see. We always, at the time she's by the reason that we have seen. The worms in the flesh. We say they're always on the flesh and not in the inside. It's not so prevalent, so therefore we assume that they fall off when you rinse it. But if you see the worms, throw them out and don't deviate from that. Shlomo Paiskim. What else? They're like everybody else. Even those which are born after the animal's dead are awesome. Being yone basar, because anything which has to do with meat, ain't latir kol anim sabo, cannot allow anything which is within it below shechita without shechting. Those which are born, hatched, whatever, generated after the animal's dead. Dogim also by fish, so where I feel him time but so shall dog mechaim. Even those you find in the flesh of the fish. Um, um, as long as the fish is alive, so we assume they came from outside. And therefore the worms and fish are not mutar unless they were found to have been generated, or can be assumed to be generated after they've been salted. This is the way they explain the Rambam. It says it's substitute design. Those who forbid the worms which generate after shchita, mikol davar haton shchita, in anything which requires shchita. Rabbeinu Makasan Nagul Akelkas for Yishana, and Shana Ramah says we are more lenient. Okay, that's the end for today. So we're more lenient for the